"Yes, officers, there's a black kid here causing trouble in the neighborhood." These words would change everything on Rosewood Drive that evening. Police sirens cut through the quiet suburban air as red and blue lights painted the lawns in ominous colors. "Put your hands where we can see them." Officer Blake's voice was unnecessarily aggressive, treating 9-year-old Zion like he was already guilty of some terrible crime. The basketball slipped from Zion's hands, bouncing once before rolling into the gutter. Standing on her manicured lawn was Brinley Ashworth, a 45-year-old woman whose designer outfit probably cost more than most people's rent. Her finger pointed like a weapon at Zion Mitchell, a black child wearing nothing more threatening than a basketball jersey and a confused expression. Zion slowly raised his hands with careful movements his parents had taught him. But what happened next would shock everyone present, including the officers who thought they were responding to just another routine call. To understand this shocking moment, we need to go back 3 weeks earlier. 9-year-old Zion Mitchell first stepped foot on Rosewood Drive, moving into his grandmother's house with his mother, Dr. Amani Mitchell, a brilliant pediatric surgeon. Zion wasn't just any 9-year-old. This kid was special, intelligent beyond his years, the kind of child who said, "Yes, ma'am," without being reminded. He helped elderly neighbors and dreamed of playing college basketball. His report cards were filled with A's, and his smile could light up any room. But there was something mysterious about Zion's family. His father worked long hours in what Zion only knew as government work. Every morning, Zion would see his dad leaving in pressed suits, carrying briefcases, looking important and serious. When kids asked what his dad did, Zion would simply say, "He works for the government." "It's really important, but I don't know the details." What Zion didn't know was that his father's job was about to become the most important detail of his young life. Just 4 houses down lived Brinley Ashworth. Everything wrong with suburban America wrapped in designer clothes and fake concern for neighborhood safety. At 45, Brinley had made herself the self-appointed queen of neighborhood watch, giving her power to make other people's lives miserable. Brinley's obsession was maintaining suburban perfection. Every morning, she'd check her Ring camera feeds and post complaints on neighborhood apps about everything from lawn heights to suspicious vehicles. She saw property values as her personal responsibility. 2 police officers patrolling the area shared her twisted worldview. Officers Garrett Blake and Nash Sterling had been partners for 3 years, developing a reputation that should have gotten them fired. These weren't officers who protected everyone equally. During Zion's first week, he was just a kid being a kid. He'd shoot hoops, ride his bike, and wave at neighbors. Most people waved back with genuine smiles, charmed by this polite child who brought new energy to their street. But not Brinley. From her window, she watched Zion like a predator stalking prey. When he dribbled his basketball, she saw loitering. When he walked to the store for candy, she saw suspicious behavior. By the first week's end, Brinley had filed her first complaint with the Homeowners Association, describing Zion as a young male engaging in surveillance activities and demanding action against this security threat. Week 2 brought escalation. Zion got a new basketball and loved the sound it made bouncing against concrete. To him, it was the sound of dreams. To Brinley, it was ammunition for attack. She called police claiming repetitive loud noises sounded like gunshots and were causing her severe anxiety. When the officer found Zion shooting hoops with his grandmother watching, he apologized and left shaking his head, but the complaint was logged officially. By week 3, Brinley's campaign reached shocking maliciousness. She posted on neighborhood apps describing gang activity and drug dealing near the elementary school. She warned neighbors about suspicious individuals who didn't belong. She never mentioned Zion by name, but her descriptions were detailed enough that anyone who'd seen him would know exactly who she meant. She was creating a wanted poster for a 9-year-old whose only crime was existing while black. It was Tuesday evening, and Zion was shooting hoops after homework. The sun was setting when something that happens to every basketball player happened to him. The ball got away, bouncing toward the street. Zion jogged after it and grabbed it before it reached the storm drain. That's when he saw her. Brinley was storming across her lawn like a woman possessed. her face twisted with rage, moving toward him with aggressive energy that would intimidate a grown man. "What are you doing?" she screamed. "I've been watching you and I know exactly what you're up to." Zion froze, basketball clutched against his chest. "I'm just playing basketball, ma'am," he replied respectfully. "I live here with my grandmother." But Brinley wasn't interested in explanations. "Don't lie to me," she spat, stepping closer threateningly. "I've been watching you case houses for weeks. You're looking for what to steal. I want to see your ID right now." She was demanding ID from a 9-year-old child. "Ma'am, I don't have an ID. I'm 9 years old. I live right there with my Nana," Zion said, pointing to his grandmother's house. "You don't belong in this neighborhood," she screamed, following him as he backed away. "I know your type. You're here to steal from hard-working families." As Zion reached his grandmother's steps, Brinley pulled out her phone and began creating lies that would turn a child's basketball game into a criminal case. She needed something that would guarantee police would take her seriously. "Wait," she said with fake realization. "My garden gnomes went missing last week, worth over $200, and my packages were tampered with. I saw you looking into car windows." Each accusation was more outrageous, but Brinley was building toward felony charges against a 9-year-old child. 101, what's your emergency? "This is Brinley Ashworth at 251 Rosewood Drive. There's a black male in his late teens who's been robbing houses for weeks." Late teens. She was describing a 9-year-old as a teenager. "He tried to break into cars, and when I confronted him, he became violent and threatening. I'm a single woman alone and terrified." She was married with 2 children, but claimed vulnerability for faster response. "I think he has a weapon. He keeps making threatening gestures. I need officers immediately before he hurts someone." She was describing a child holding a basketball as armed and dangerous. While Brinley spun her lies, Zion did what his parents taught him. He called for help, first his mother at the hospital. "Mom, that neighbor lady is calling the police. She's saying I stole things, but I didn't. I'm scared." Dr. Mitchell stepped out of surgery. "Zion, go inside with Nana. Keep your hands visible. Be respectful to officers and call your father immediately." Then Zion made the call that would change everything. "Dad, that neighbor is calling police again. She's saying I stole from her house." Voice trembling. "I'm on my way, son. When I get there, everyone involved is going to learn exactly who they're dealing with," his father replied. Firmly. When officers Blake and Sterling received the call, they weren't responding to a report. They were responding to their prejudices. The squad car screamed down Rosewood Drive with sirens blaring. "Sounds like another punk who the piety is. Inks, he can steal from decent people," Blake said, checking his weapon. "These kids need consequences." When they stepped out, Blake and Sterling had already decided Zion's guilt. They arrived to arrest a criminal. The problem was the criminal was a 9-year-old holding a basketball. "Put your hands up," Blake screamed, approaching a child on his own grandmother's porch. "Get on the ground now." Zion, terrified but following instructions, slowly raised his hands. Sterling grabbed his arms and forced him to the ground. "I didn't do anything wrong," Zion said, shaking. "I live here with my grandmother." "Shut up, we'll do the talking," Blake replied. A police officer telling a 9-year-old to shut up. That's when Brinley delivered an Academy Award performance. "Thank God you're here," she cried with fake tears. "That's him. He's been terrorizing our neighborhood. He stole my decorations worth $200, my packages worth $500, tools from my garage worth $300. I've seen him casing my house at night." Each lie became more elaborate. The officers didn't ask for evidence or question how a 9-year-old could carry $300 worth of tools. They believed every word because it confirmed their prejudices. Nana Cordelia heard commotion and found her grandson being treated like a criminal. "Officers, there's been a mistake. This is my grandson Zion. He's 9 years old and never stolen anything." But they weren't interested in contradicting evidence. "Ma'am, step back. We're investigating." Other neighbors tried defending Zion. Mrs. Santos said he was the most respectful boy she'd met, always helping with groceries. But officers had made their decision. Despite being terrified, Zion maintained composure his parents taught him. He asked politely to call his father and provided his address when asked, but to Blake and Sterling, his calm behavior was suspicious. "This kid's too calm," Blake muttered. "Most guilty kids would be crying. His composure makes him look calculating." They were using a child's respectful B. Heavier as evidence he was a criminal. Then they made the decision that would change everything. "Zion Mitchell, you're under arrest for theft, trespassing, and resisting arrest." They added resisting arrest to a 9-year-old who had complied with every command. As they prepared to put him in their car, Zion made one last attempt. "My father is on his way. Please wait for him. He can explain everything. Your daddy isn't going to save you from this one." Blake delivered the line that would soon haunt him spectacularly. Just as Blake was about to drive away, emergency sirens filled the air again. A black police SUV with flashing lights pulled up with speed and authority that made everyone stop and take notice. Blake and Sterling looked satisfied, assuming backup had arrived. "Finally," Blake muttered, "department's taking this seriously, probably sending a supervisor for this high-profile arrest." They had no idea the person stepping out would destroy their careers and entire understanding of power and consequence. The door opened and out stepped Chief Dakari Mitchell, 48 years old and every inch law enforcement authority. His dress uniform was immaculate, his presence commanding immediate attention from everyone present. But what struck everyone wasn't his rank or uniform, it was his face. Chief Mitchell looked at this scene with cold, calculating expression of someone cataloging every mistake and preparing to deliver justice. Blake and Sterling's satisfaction transformed into nervous confusion as they recognized their chief. This wasn't backup. This was their boss, arriving unannounced. "Chief Mitchell, we got this under control, sir," Sterling said nervously. Chief Mitchell surveyed the scene with methodical precision. His eyes took in the handcuffed child, the satisfied woman, the gathered neighbors, and his uncomfortable officers. "Give me your report. I want exact details," Chief Mitchell said with authority that made grown men stand at attention. Blake launched into what he thought was professional summary. "Sir, we responded to a 911 call about a robbery suspect. The complainant identified this individual as someone who stole multiple items over several weeks." Chief Mitchell listened without expression, taking notes. "Continue." "The suspect was non-cooperative, kept trying to call someone to establish an alibi. We proceeded with arrest for theft, trespassing, and resisting arrest," Sterling added. "Resisting arrest," Chief Mitchell repeated with ice in his voice. "What exactly did he do to resist?" The officers looked at each other, realizing their story wasn't solid. "Well, sir, he was uncooperative, kept asking questions instead of following commands." Before Chief Mitchell could respond, Brinley decided this was her moment to shine. She approached with confidence, seeing his rank as validation opportunity. "Thank goodness someone with real authority. This criminal has been terrorizing our neighborhood for weeks." She launched into her performance. "I have evidence of over $1,000 in stolen property, garden decorations, packages, tools. He's been casing my house at night, planning robberies." Chief Mitchell listened to every word, taking detailed notes, asking for specifics. To Brinley, this looked like thorough investigation. She had no idea she was providing evidence for her own prosecution. Then Chief Mitchell asked the question that would expose their complete failure. "So you arrested this young man based solely on accusations, no physical evidence, no investigation, no verification of alleged crimes?" Blake tried defending their actions. "Well, sir, she seemed credible, and he fit the description." Chief Mitchell asked the question that changed everything. "What description? Of a black 9-year-old?" The silence was deafening. Blake and Sterling realized their chief knew something they didn't, and their routine arrest was about to become their worst mistake. Chief Mitchell walked to where Zion stood, still handcuffed. For the first time, his professional mask slipped slightly. "Son," he said gently, "are you hurt?" Zion shook his head, but relief was visible to everyone. This child treated like a criminal was finally being spoken to like a human being. Chief Mitchell turned back to the group. Officers Blake and Sterling, the criminal you just arrested for robbery, trespassing, and resisting arrest is my son. The words hit like a thunderbolt. Complete silence fell over Rosewood Drive. Blake and Sterling looked physically sick. Brinley's mouth fell open as color drained from her face. That's impossible. How was I supposed to know? Brinley broke the silence, voice shaking. Know what? Chief Mitchell responded with cold precision. That you shouldn't file false police reports, that you shouldn't make up crimes, that you shouldn't accuse children of felonies based on skin color? Blake tried desperately explaining. Chief, we had no idea. We were following protocol. Protocol for what? Arresting 9-year-olds for playing basketball? Protocol for believing accusations without evidence? Protocol for treating my son like a dangerous criminal because a racist woman told you to? The truth was completely clear. They hadn't arrested a criminal. They had participated in racist targeting of a child whose only crime was existing while black in his own neighborhood. Chief Mitchell began delivering justice with methodical precision. Officers Blake and Sterling, you arrested my son without probable cause using excessive force against a child. You failed basic investigation and ignored witnesses. Report to Internal Affairs Monday morning. You'll face charges of police misconduct, civil rights violations, and failure to perform duties. Your badges and weapons, now. Blake and Sterling, hands shaking, removed badges and surrendered weapons right there in front of everyone. Their careers were over. Then he addressed Brinley. Filing false police reports is a felony carrying up to 5 years prison. Making up crimes, wasting police resources with fabricated emergencies. These are serious charges. He pulled out his phone and read her 911 call transcript word for word. There's a black male, late teens, robbing houses. He tried breaking into cars, became violent and threatening. I think he has a weapon. Everyone understood this wasn't a mistake. This was calculated lie designed to get a child arrested. The community spoke up. Mr. Vulov had recorded Brinley harassing Zion for weeks. Mrs. Santos testified about his character. Even neighbors who'd stayed silent admitted they should have spoken up sooner. The evidence was overwhelming. Brinley had systematically harassed and attempted to criminalize a child based purely on racial prejudice. Later that evening, the Mitchell family reunited safely at home. Chief Mitchell embraced his son with fierce parental love. Dr. Mitchell rushed from the hospital to hold her child. I'm proud of you, son, Chief Mitchell said emotionally. You did everything we taught you, stayed calm, respectful, trusted truth would prevail. But I was scared, Dad, Zion admitted, showing vulnerability he'd hidden all evening. Being scared and still doing right makes you brave, Dr. Mitchell said, holding him close. Criminal charges were filed within a week. Brinley faced felony charges for false reports. Blake and Sterling were suspended, their careers over. The department implemented new protocols against racial profiling. Preston Ashworth came home to find his wife facing felony charges. When he learned what she'd done, he was mortified and consulted divorce attorneys. The Homeowners Association removed Brinley from all positions and issued formal apologies. 3 months later, Zion was back on the basketball court, but not alone. Children from throughout the neighborhood joined pickup games that lasted until sunset. The community had learned, grown, and healed. Brinley moved out in shame, facing trial and abandoned by family. The truth had surfaced, justice was delivered, and a 9-year-old boy was vindicated by a system that for once worked as it should. Sometimes truth surfaces, injustice finds those who pervert it, and courage triumphs over hatred. This story reminds us that doing the right thing will always overcome lies and abuse of power.